Hey, let's talk about you, the ID10T community events at id10t.com, like Russ Stevens, aka
CatBusRuss,
who has started a podcast called 90 for Chill, which Russ says is dedicated to movies with a runtime between 74 and 99 minutes, the time frame that I feel is ideal. Russ, I could not agree with you more. That is a fantastic idea. Russ goes on to say there are times you need a cinematic fix but don't have time for the latest Scorsese masterpiece or offering from a comic book universe. There's also times when you need a conclusion to prevent a binge costing you a whole night. My guest and I try to follow these guidelines as we chat up features that are definitely worth your time and are beyond easy to make time for. 90 for Chill, the podcast, can be found on all major podcast platforms at 90forchill.com, and that's spelling out 90, Ninety, 4 FOR, chill. So there you go. Thank you so much for sharing, Russ. Really great idea for a podcast. Events at id10t.com for everyone else.
Hello, and thank you for checking out I Dig Crazy Flicks presents 90 for Chill, the podcast with CatBusRuss. I am your host, CatBusRuss. And before we get into the panel I did on Sunday, July 13th, 2025 at Capital City Comic-Con, which was a good time. Thanks for everybody who came out. I really wish I would have thought about the punch and pie idea a lot earlier before I started bribing people to come to the show, but I digress. Before we jump into that panel, I'm doing work for the ATL Comic Convention in Atlanta this weekend. 90 for Chill, the podcast, is going to be a part of that, and I'll be on a few panels and hosting my panel for the first time. 1985 triple threat match, Stallone versus Schwarzenegger versus the Cannon Group. So, to catch up on the Cannon Group, I watched Invasion USA, so let's get to that review.
Time for dinner.
No one thought it could ever happen here. They are an army of international terrorists.
America has not been invaded by a foreign enemy in nearly 200 years.
Their target, America. Their objective, control.
18 hours from now, America will be a different place.
Now, only one thing stands in their way.
It's time to die.
Didn't work, huh? Now it will.
They wanted a war.
See you in hell.
He gave them one.
Send me a postcard.
Chuck Norris. Invasion USA.
So, at noon on Sunday, July 20th, I'm hosting my panel 1985 triple threat match, Stallone versus Schwarzenegger versus the Cannon Group. So, to make sure I have the Cannon Group all covered, I've seen Death Wish 3, I've seen American Ninja. I decided to go and watch Invasion USA with Chuck Norris. It's directed by Joseph Zito, who did Missing Action the year prior. He did not direct Missing Action 2, which came out in 85, which was actually the first movie that was planned to be released. You know, it was all about trying to beat Rambo First Blood Part 2, The Punch, about going back and saving Vietnam veterans. Thus, didn't seem as important as Invasion USA. Joseph Zito also directed Friday the 13th Part 4 and The Prowler. I've not seen the final chapter, which is part 4 of Friday the 13th, but I have seen The Prowler and Tom Savini special effects. That's all I can really say. You're going to get something out of it if you're a fan of his work. So Invasion USA is about a Russian named Rostov, played by Richard Lynch, or who I would say is, if it's too expensive to import, Klaus Kinski in the 80s. He was also in Death Sport as the antagonist there, so not really scoring many points with me. He did do a lot of Rob Zombie work, so he's definitely had friends in his life who appreciated what he did, the low-budget stuff, dare I say. He is leading terrorist attacks all over the country, primarily though Atlanta and Miami are the focuses, and it seems like he's just trying to create chaos. It opens with us discovering that his group of terrorists murdered a Coast Guard group to then in turn murder a bunch of immigrants who, of course, being in Reagan 80s, were riding with a bunch of cocaine, and then Billy Drago is wasted as a drug dealer who buys the coke and is immediately killed. Very convoluted in a lot of spots, and we don't necessarily say, especially for a Cold War era movie, that it's the Russians or the Cubans or the Chinese. It's implied, but this looks like just a general effort to create anarchy and turn the nation on itself. So more of the right-wing playbook. Oh, wouldn't you know it, Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris is some kind of ultra-secret agent who had the chance to kill Lynch before, but, you know, paperwork and bureaucracy. And Chuck Norris is very unlikable in this because killing is pretty much what he wants to do. He thinks that's the only answer to things. There's no real good heroes, and the villains are just kind of laughable because they make so many damn mistakes going into that. Death Wish 3 was more of the anarchy I think I was looking for in 1985. I'll just put it that way. But, you know, they don't make any wise moves in the first act. Kill a Coast Guard crew, like, you know, you could have probably dressed as a Coast Guard crew and killed those immigrants and stole the drugs. Never mind the classic mistake of not taking the drugs after you killed the guys who gave you the money for the drugs. Did they not see Scarface? So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this movie that just makes me think, oh my gosh, you were just trying to create something shocking. And there's some mean stuff in that. I mean, we have a woman during the Billy Drago sequence who is testing the product, and then Lynch decides to go into the Joker's magic trick to her in the straw. She survives. He's fired off 4 rounds and decides, now it's better to throw this bitch out the window. Like, just unnecessarily mean stuff. And, you know, this is, I guess, you know, it's before, and that's kind of the principle of my panel I'm going to be hosting, before 1989, where we decided with Batman that violence can be for everybody. So you'll hear me talk about that when I get to the panel I did at Capital City Con from Lansing. Direction-wise, I mean, it's definitely butchered in the editing room. Definitely some very bad content. I mean, just like, whoa, the National Guard's been issued, and they show him in the daylight, and then we cut right back to Chuck in the night. And Chuck Norris just looks stupid with what he's doing. He's basically, this is the movie poster where he's got twin Uzis, and he's just shooting with those, you know, no higher than his chest. Like, I guess we should have given stormtroopers fully automatic weapons if you really wanted to beat the rebels. There's just so much silly bollocks about this movie, and never mind it's pro-America in a sense, and it's kind of like, oh, I'm getting fed up with this. Like, oh, we have a school bus being sent out to the countryside with children, so like in England during World War II, the Battle of Britain, they won't get struck by the Nazis. But you give me enough refrains of row, row, row your boat, I'm hoping that plastique blows up. I am sorry. Yeah, it's just a silly effort. You can definitely tell it's a Cannon Group movie, and not in a good way. I have my issues with Bronson in Death Wish 3. Okay, there's a difference between civilians being caught in the crossfire like a good Hong Kong action movie, and then like, you know what, let's just have our bad guys turn and start killing civilians who really will not affect the story at all type stuff. Again, it's just kind of like, well, let's be mean is what 80s action movies were about. But of course, we have Stallone and Schwarzenegger and even Michael Dudikoff saying, not necessarily, we just want the action. So people say, oh, this is one of the better Chuck Norris movies. No, I don't really know. I'm going to have to really go back. It's kind of a pain in the ass. I haven't seen a good Chuck Norris movie in my adulthood. Do I really want to go and figure out if there is one? Invasion USA says no.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
This podcast is protected under the laws of the United States and other countries. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or exhibition may result in civil liability, criminal prosecution, and the wrath of the tall man. For those who enjoy horror, the Phantasm series, like the first one's like a pure nightmare, and then all right, let's try building a lore around it for 5 movies. But it's from the guy who brought us Bubba Hotep, a must-see Bruce Campbell feature, and a feature that is just under 100 minutes, which is what the ideal runtime for a movie is. This is I Dig Crazy Flicks presents 90 for Chill, the podcast with CatBusRuss. Obviously, I'm CatBusRuss, and I started this podcast because, well, I started as a blog, basically, because, you know what, movies are just way too long now. So I should have things lined up, play my Chris Hardwick intro when he promoted the pod for me back in the day. But basically, we don't have the time. I work 2 retail jobs, and do this podcast. So I don't have the time to watch the latest Scorsese masterpiece, which is sad because he's, brilliant. And I would say talented enough to earn the extra minutes. But I digress. And then Marvel movies. I want to watch them all. Well, I haven't expanded outside the original Avengers lineup, so I haven't seen Shang-Chi, which I've heard good things about, or the Eternals, which I think everybody says I'm better off missing that. So yeah, it's just finding the time for that, and then you don't want to be up at night, I wonder what's on Netflix, and it's all TV shows now, pretty much. So it's oh great, so I'm not going to bed. It's like potato chips. You just don't stop after one episode. So I focus on features that fit between 70 and 100 minutes, too short to be 2 hours of TV, and half your Oscar bait movies, I suppose. Which leads you to the second portion of the title, or the first portion. We're going through a rebrand right now, from 90 for Chill to I Dig Crazy Flicks. 90 for Chill was a name my ex-girlfriend suggested. I was saying, oh, how about 90 and chill? And she says, no, it sounds more like a non-Aryan, people over 90 dating website. And yeah, no, smart. But you find, movies under 90 minutes, if it's not a comedy comedy's a little bit, but if it's not a drama and it's under 90 minutes, they tend to be crazier features, I would say. Horror movies always end up being, at least the first chapter is always going to be 90 minutes. And I'm forgiving, of features where the runtime gets longer and longer, say in a series. I love the John Wick movies, and I think, yeah, Keanu has earned every extra 15, 30 minutes we add on to each feature. And, but those movies are also just obscenely crazy in the effects, the choreography, a hitman society where, we're just cool with that existing. So I sort of expanded it basically to, if you want to be on my podcast, as long as the movie's nuts, I'll chat about it. But if it's, say Before Sunrise from Richard Linklater, Ethan Hawke, Julie Delpy, 80 minutes, okay, cool. That's a nice little romantic drama I can put up with. Not to say I don't like romantic dramas. I'm just me and my cat at home, Ava the Queen Kitty, so it's kind of I just don't get around to watching too many rom-coms, dare I say. I'm not saying it's a chick thing. So that's kind of the premise of the of my podcast in a nutshell. So what kind of movies are you into? This is now audience participation. You were bribed with the punch and pie.
I've been getting into Hitchcock. Hitchcock films, actually.
Nice.
Rope being the perfect 80 minutes, only 4 cuts of the camera because the limit of the thing. Very good film. Fourth best one of his.
Oh, okay, so...
I have a very specific list of Hitchcock's films.
Okay, I'm going Psycho, Rebecca, North by Northwest.
I have not seen... I don't remember if I've seen Rebecca, but Strangers on a Train
Ooh,
is
okay.
2, Rear Window is 1, Psycho is 3rd. Psycho is great, but like the outdated medical things will always haunt me.
Okay, well, yeah, I've been to a panel earlier, yesterday, from Kapow, comic artist school, which they were talking about designing the best villain. But they were basically saying, like, you know, villains really are a sign of the time.
Oh, for sure.
So I don't see when people say, because I've had this argument, my older sister's presented it. She's on Letterboxd, the poetic critic. She's got her own page on ididcrazyflix.com, because a lot of time we're just filling content. Like, I couldn't get a guest, begging my big sister, like, come on, just BS for 30 minutes or so. So when people go and say, oh, you can't watch movie, like, I guess there was a movement on Twitter. I've been banned from Twitter, and that was either I had too many accounts because I would sit on something cool and then promote my podcast, or the spouting atheism at the Republican National Convention wasn't probably a wise decision. So I mean, Silence of the Lambs, is a good 2 hour.
I've seen it.
Yeah, it's 2 hours, and I know the obviously the medical is totally off now from that one. It was more perceptions, and then I guess the Crying Game kind of softened it, but people were considering that more of a twist in that feature, which was a Crying Game is about.
Oh, I know. I've heard of the Crying Game.
If you've seen Ace Ventura,
yeah,
you,
same plot twist.
Yes, but I don't know. Maybe that introduced me to my Neptunic tendencies, but again, I digress. But with Hitchcock, there's a podcast I listen to a lot, and I'm even a Patreon subscriber, called Screen Drafts, and they did a top 36. It's 3 podcasts long of ranking the top 36. We got Punch and Pie. If the podcast isn't enough. Oh.
What are we talking about today?
So this is I Did Crazy Flicks presents 90 for Chill, the podcast. Basically, the premise is movies tend to be way too long now. I think the ideal runtime is 70 to 100 minutes, and you can earn more. Like, I will talk about John Wick movies all day, but the first one was a cool 100 minutes before credits. Well, no, I guess you have to include the credits, but yeah, you do include it on that one. But I like to end the narrative, like, not to disrespect all the hard work put on this by the staff and actors, but the narrative's done. I can go to bed.
Sure.
Which is the kind of the concept of movies being too long. Like, I work 2 jobs. I don't get the time to watch Marvel or Scorsese, and I'm not going to turn on Netflix and watch a TV episode because it's like a potato chip. You're going to be up all night. So I know you got the Star Wars related shirt on, and there's no shortest Star Wars movie is 2008, The Clone Wars, which, like, the TV series really did a great job building off of it.
That's what I'm here to talk about today. I'm doing a panel at 1:30.
All right, now I'll stick around then. So,
have you ever? I don't mean to jump in.
No.
Have you ever thought about the idea of bringing back intermissions?
I would love that.
Concerts, why not movies?
Yeah, I don't know if I've been to a concert with an intermission. I mean,
Different acts, but
yeah, but my older sister was a big theater kid growing up. She was always in the Caterpillar chorus down in Peoria, and maybe get A-line type thing because it's a company chorus. It's going to be the guys who, we'll get the most attention. Let's put our executives up on the stage. see how they handle Oklahoma. So that, but yeah, you'd always have an intermission there. And theater is well, I don't know, there's very concise theater out there. My favorite musical is The Book of Mormon. Again, big South Park fan. Hence the punch and pie briberies.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. And that is a real brief one. Doesn't really need an intermission. So it's something's get rolling. Well, it's an artist. It's kind of a storytelling trick. Like you're telling a 2-act. Movies are based typically on the 3-act structure: exposition, rising action, climax. Second act's usually the longest. So with intermissions, you gotta write basically 2 movies in a sense. Like, I gotta cut it here. I did find that interesting, like the Swedes, if you're familiar with the Millennium Trilogy, probably best known for the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I went and saw all those at the local indie theater in Peoria, which no longer exists, but, get the only theater you could drink in at the time, so... Then got Netflix circa 2010 when Netflix was still good. Like, I liked it as a library. You're getting my $6 a month. I don't, but capitalist after capitalist. But they had the Millennium Trilogy extended cuts, and they divided. So in Sweden, they do a lot of movies that they then adapt to the States and cut in half, like Ingmar Bergman movies, even. But they focus more on television, I think, over there. So those, so they cut them in half at 90 minutes. They're only about 2.5 hours if you're just watching the original cut. I mean, the movie cuts. So, but it's kind of an art. Like, I think the only Criterion disc I own with an intermission is the Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, and honestly, it's a great spot because I am kind of like, all right, because then you got the issue, like you got rising action, and then it's like, man, there's a lot of rising action. I do kind of need the nap. So, and I was a fan of the good old days of VHS where at least, you knew you weren't going to watch the second half when the tape ends for the first one. Titanic, big example. My ex-girlfriend's favorite movie, who does a lot of help with the podcast, is Amadeus, and it's like, that is a freaking book if you get it on VHS. And there was a Saturday Night Live digital sketch from Pete Davidson called Short Ass Movies, where it's a rap song about how movies need to be a concise 90 minutes. I
forgot that they used to have dual VHS.
Yeah.
Gone with the Wind is 3 VHS long.
Is it?
It's a very big brick.
It's nearly a 4-hour movie, so. But 90 minutes is a ideal runtime in VHS. I kind of miss it still. I've had guests on the show. No, we can't go back to the analog days. I liked, because it was kind of like when you're making your own tapes. It's kind of like, oh, I'm the editor now. Back up. Yeah, I was also in the professional wrestling business, so we're making tapes all the time of what we've got to offer to promote ourselves. And, but 90-minute movies, you can get 4 of those on one tape, 6 hours. So think of it, the commodity there. So, I mean, I see, again, Star Wars, you're doing a panel after this. Is that your favorite series, or?
Yeah, that is. So, well, it was at the time when I started doing the work on it.
Okay.
My favorite series now is Andor.
Well, I know, yes. No, I was basically saying this when it comes to
franchise.
Fandom in general, yes.
Yes, franchises, that's the one that I've decided to lock in on the most.
Oh, no, I've got...
My first movie I ever saw in the theater was Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
I was 4 years old.
Geez, your parents were pretty conservative. I saw it 11 times first run, and I was 3. But
so why do you think? Can I ask you a question? Why do you think movies have gone to the 2.5-3 hour format?
Well,
do you think it has anything to do with like the ability to tell a story? It can tell a story in that amount of time, or is it?
Well, I think I think you look at, say, superhero movies. We can go all the way back to Batman '89. We have to. Origin story is so important, and I think you go to say John Wick. No, that's pretty quick. You don't need the origin story of John Wick. You kill his dog, he kills you. But you do get to hear it. But it's one scene. You killed three people with a pencil. And again, nice little wrap around to Michael Nyqvist from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo trilogy, the original Swedish. But Tim Burton's Batman, which I don't consider a comic book movie, because Burton doesn't read comic books. He's even said that, like, oh no, he was in he was locked up for the Killing Joke, and no. But it's nice gothic. I mean, it's a brilliant film. I think Batman Returns is even better. But we had to take a half hour, to explain how we created the Joker. Which, if it was a comic book movie, we don't explain how we got the Joker. And that was the brilliance of the Killing Joke. And so that's talking the original Alan Moore comic. I did watch the DC animated feature, and I thought it was fine. A lot of people don't like the idea of Batman. I guess it is a grooming situation when Batgirl gives herself to Batman. Dick Grayson should have stuck around. That's all I can say. So yeah, I think say Iron Man, we had to go and spend. We could have just had him.
The whole movie, or 3/4 of the movie about it.
Right, you could have just had him bust out of the cave, or you could just. Well, I mean, even when you see it, they go and attack his. I think you need the Vegas scene to establish him. And then attacking the SUV, and then you could have just cut to him busting his way out. But I mean, it is John Favreau's.
So and I actually have had a lot of conversations about this, but do you think it has to do with making movies for the masses and then having to establish a fandom rather than playing fan service to people who are already familiar with the franchise?
Well, I mean, that's obviously what I would say. I think it's pretty. Well, yeah, they're catering to the mass audience, so you need the origin story. So it's pretty nice and concise there. And then it all gets bastardized anyhow. The panel about creating a villain yesterday from the Kapow Comic Art Academy was going on about how Marvel started, okay, we're giving you the stories, how that, at least bumping up to modern time, and then it's yeah, we can't do that. We have to go and put these characters in, make them fit, instead of even working up their own origin stories. So I'm kind of relieved that we're getting a prequel to the MCU in Fantastic Four. Sure. I mean, it looks like a watchable one. Yeah. Because I did not have any interest in Jessica Alba and. And I don't even want to go into the James Trunk, I think it was, the 2015. Yeah.
Not to get too deep into Marvel, I don't need to keep asking you.
No, that's.
I don't know if you got more material you got to try to get through.
Oh yeah, this is basically the premise, and then we'll go. As I say, that's why I'm asking about movies and. Going to the crazy, or maybe a movie that's way too long, but.
Well, I think looking at the franchises overall, I think I look at Marvel as a great example, and I think the fact that they have built it to the masses, have built the origin stories into their long movies, has built a fan base, right? Grown a fan base, and I think that's something that DC failed to do in their movie delivery, they're for over the last 5 or 10 years.
Well, DC got into the game way too late. That's just basically it.
Fast track.
Right. No, it's and Zack Snyder is a long-winded director to begin with, and I happen to like Man of Steel, and I'm a defender of the long cut of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Okay. It's kind of nice we didn't get a Batman origin at least, and Man of Steel, I mean, it's his story. I'm there, and in that case, you have to reinvent it because we're so used to the Donner universe. I think the problem with Marvel right now is it's basically reached the point of The Simpsons. It's like we had Endgame, which is essentially who shot Mr. Burns.
Sure.
And now it's like, well, if it's on, I'm going to watch it, but I don't know anybody who actually made it appointment television after the 6th season of The Simpsons. It's on after football. That's really it. Yeah, but I mean, you stop and watch a Simpsons episode, it's still quality stuff. Family Guy is not quality television, but I love the jokes. It's and you can just easily fall into that. So yeah, I think everybody's saying, oh, comic book movies are over. Probably not after Superman, at least from what I've been hearing. I haven't gotten to see it myself. It's not dying, it's just that it's become very much like white noise. And, that should be an opening for the movie industry to go back to brief stories, go back to the independents. I mean, A24 likes to smell their own farts. They do a lot of what they call I can't remember the term, prestige horror movies. X, Pearl. Those are actually pretty brief. I've done them on my podcast. Same thing with Maxine, the trilogy. But then let's say The Northman, which I had to go and buy. I mean, I liked The Witch with Anastasia Joy. It was a good, again, 90-minute movie. And you got Robert Eggers and Anya Taylor-Joy coming back, and you have Alexander Skarsgård as the Northman, and I'm a True Blood fan, and he was basically playing a Viking vampire. So this is just too much synergy. Have I found the time to watch it, though? Because it's a good, I think, 2.5 hours. So, but I mean to. And they do get some, DC has done some good things, I'd say, James Gunn taking over, primarily. And I do love their cartoons, Harley Quinn. I have not finished Suicide Squad Isekai. Mean to. And Creature Commandos was a lot of fun. James Gunn figures a way to kill Michael Rooker again. That's usually a stamp of quality. But and I see the Lola Bunny cosplay, and I said there might be a disturbing joke. Because of Rabbit, shouldn't she have needed 3 shirts?
That's why they added the tank in the reboot.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying there's a lot more to support if you're a female quadruped. There's a show I love to watch, British comedy, Red Dwarf, and one of the characters is a evolved cat, Felis sapien. And there's one point where some doctors are trying to figure out, well, he's got a weird anatomy. He's got, 6 nipples. Oh, geez, I wonder what the female's like. And the response was, very easy in bed. So, yeah, again, I focus a lot on crazy movies as well. And I think, there's the escapism aspect, how there's some great police procedurals that fit in 90 minutes and what have you. But, it's like a concise Law and Order, dare I say. Because, I don't know, I don't like Law and Order SVU once it broke the format of first half, get the offender, second half trial. I don't really care that much about Chris Maloney and relationships. Just give me, move the story along. Give me Richard Belzer and Ice-T making some uncalled for quips about crime scenes. So I guess I'm a movie fan just because I like my narrative to. I want to see it. I want to be gone, and if it's nice and concise, great. But I do think as if you're a talented enough director, you can earn more time from me. Like, I'm not going to deny. I've always said Jurassic Park's 30 minutes too long. Can we add the kids eating and then all right, we got real drama now? No, you can't show it to your kids. I always say watch Westworld 1973, I believe it was, Crichton's. Oh, Michael Crichton wrote Westworld. And again, plot, go to an amusement park where you can do whatever you like with cowboys or Romans or medieval times. And then the robots go nuts. Which is basically what Jurassic Park is, except you can't shoot or shag a dinosaur. But it's a nice, concise 90 minutes. James Brolin, James Brolin, Richard Benjamin, and Yul Brynner as the Man in Black. So if you're familiar with the Westworld TV show, which does a lot of people are having fun just trying to predict what's going to, and it's pretty predictable, honestly. I'm there for the ride because I loved Westworld and the original, and I love the twist they took on it. Basically, Ed Harris is the Man in Black, which was what Yul Brynner was, the unstoppable cowboy, even Terminator-esque. So Jurassic Park, too much melodrama with the kids. No, I'm just saying, you didn't have to eat the kids, but you didn't have to bring them along. But Michael Crichton, he came up in the time of dime store airport reads, dare I say. So many people on a podcast I listened to called Screen Drafts, they did a John Patrick Shannery draft of his entire filmography, whatever he's written and directed. And he made some weird decisions, like We're Back, a Dinosaur Story. This is a guy who had won a Pulitzer for his plays, a Tony for his plays, and he wrote Moonstruck and won an Oscar for that. And then he's doing We're Back, a Dinosaur Story, which is what Amblin was trying to say. Okay, Jurassic Park might be too intense for your kids. Wait till this holiday season, and we'll give you dinosaurs they can like. But another movie he did was Congo. Wrote the screenplay for Congo, and I've never really given it its fair shake. And that's ridiculous. Joe Don Baker, Tim Curry, Ernie Hudson, the supporting cast enough is for me to want to watch it. But really silly, definitely in a weird time between special effects. Now we just CG the monkeys, but he. I'm just going on about Michael Crichton being you pick up Congo before you take a cross-country flight and you're finished. So not known for a lot of depth, and I'd say especially when his last movie he directed, technically most people say he was the guy who directed The 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas. But as I say, not a lot of depth. And then you go back to the movie he directed before that was Runaway from 1984 with Tom Selleck facing off against Gene Simmons in a future not too much like this one now, because we're very much dependent on robots and such. But fun concepts, like this guy Gene Simmons literally makes bullets with your name on it. Heat seeking and such. A lot of it can be fun. I go to an annual movie marathon at Northwestern University called B-Fest, and it's 24 hours of B movies, and some of it is some deep hurting stuff, but fortunately you got an entire crowd of people with you. It's a big Mystery Science Theater 3000 in the end, and I've seen. But, B movies, my jam, because they're usually all crazy. I think the most subtle movie was from last year's was a feature. It was an early Renee Zellweger movie, which is a remake. It was for Showtime originally, because Roger Corman was having old movies of his being remade by Showtime at the time. And, that's about a rise and fall music story. But otherwise you get movies like Blaxploitation. The only thing it was missing this year, and it was a great lineup, was Roller Skates and Kaiju. Like the 3 previous ones.
You're better off without Xanadu. It's a terrible film.
I full-heartedly agree with you, and it was at my second B-Fest I attended.
Pay me to watch that a second time. I'm so mad.
I don't know. I kind of
I would trust it.
Have you seen The Apple?
The Apple.
Oh, okay. That was so. There's always a musical at B-Fest. Mm-hmm. So my first go around, I can't actually recall if there was a musical the first one I went to. I may have slept through it. Like, there's a point like I'm gonna have to sleep. You want the worst movie I've ever seen? I saw at B-Fest. It's called Food Fight.
Oh yeah, I've seen that Food Fight.
Yeah. Yes. And that was after a really crappy movie that Tarantino likes, but it was not enough cats in Night of a Thousand Cats. I think it was an Italian-Mexican co-production. And if you watch, and I am a Tarantino nut, and his first movie did start with only a runtime of about 100 minutes. Reservoir Dogs. And as I say, I'm going to give Pulp Fiction all the time he wants. And and I think he would actually favor intermissions. Like, Kill Bill should be considered one movie, not Kill Bill and Kill Bill Volume 2. And he would have probably thrown an intermission in there. That was classic Harvey Weinstein. No, we need to sell this as many times as possible. And then if you're familiar with the Grindhouse, Death Proof and Planet Terror, yes, that's what killed that series. That's why you don't have any more Grindhouse, because they could only sell half the showings. Because I remember it being packed when I went to see it opening weekend, and then I see the box office, and it's opening 4th. So, but yeah, love the intermission stuff. And so, are you with the con, working for the con, or?
I'm volunteering.
Okay, well, regardless, you're sitting in. I promised online when I'm trying my best promoting Punch and Pie as Eric Cartman's set in Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. So, thank you.
I'm always collecting pins.
All right. So,
tell you a story about Bigger, Longer, and Uncut?
Yes, go ahead.
My wife and I were dating when that movie came out, and I decided to take her to that movie. It was one of our earlier dates. Fully not knowing what the content was.
No.
And it was an awkward date.
She's
my wife of 25 years now, so.
All right.
Second one.
All right. So my last girlfriend I was with, we were together 4 years or so. She, like, the first movie we went and saw was The Nice Guys, Shane Black. That's a little long, but I think it's great. Late Russell Crowe, and Ryan Gosling being the chameleon that he is. Like, you wouldn't see that guy being Ken in a few years later. I'm kind of disappointed he was so great as Ken, because now, like, the Fall Guy, no, I still got to be handsome and such. Like, no, I liked you in The Big Short, looking like just your typical yuppie. So The Nice Guys, she was not ready for that, especially since I'm free from religious constraints, and she was very much like, how can you hate a movie with the line just that you just hear it in the peripheral? I told him if he wanted to do that again, he shouldn't eat asparagus. Shane Black, I got a soft spot for him. I didn't mind The Predator It's a sloppy movie, beyond sloppy, but it gives us kind of what we want. I think anytime you can cast Jake Busey, I guess I'm gonna be curious. Meaning I still need to watch Roadhouse 2, just because Jake Busey is the villain in that. There was a panel yesterday, real or fake, and they were going over, just throwing out movie titles, and is this real or is this fake? I'd say I was batting about 66% on what was real, what was fake, and being disappointed in some of the fake stuff. Like, who wouldn't want to see Dutch Oven of Doom? And it's not about that. It's just a weird title. I think that one I thought could be real. A good Indiana Jones knockoff. Because the plot description. Oh yeah, the Nazis. He's got to find the oven.
Blanket of Moses.
Oh, you were there. Okay. All right. So, and I guess an easy question to keep things going forward is, since I do, change the podcast, changing the podcast and from 90 for Chill to I Did Crazy Flicks. What's the craziest stuff you've seen or like to suggest?
Like movies?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry?
Zovek?
Ooh.
Oh, Professor or something like that. Zovek. It's an insane movie. I don't even barely remember any of it. I think my mind blocked it out. But I remember watching it with some friends in high school.
Okay.
It's just a psychotic film.
Well, going back to Don Coscarelli, the Phantasm guy, as I open the podcast with the blurb from the end of the credits.
Yeah, I think so.
You got it.
Professor Zovek.
Ooh, okay. Born
1943 or 1940.
Well, no, it says he born 1940. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm just gonna IMDb him while we're. But if you want something that seems like a total fever dream, and again, Don Coscarelli, John dies at the end. It's trying to tell that story. It's based on a book, and I think it was only like the first third of the book. So, spoiler, he doesn't. Well, he doesn't. Well, at some point, not the end. Okay, it's about a guy trying to expose this weird drug called soy sauce to a investigative reporter played by Paul Giamatti. And he's just telling the experience of this. No, the high is fine. The side effects last forever type thing. You have Clancy Brown, Doug Jones, the guy who does all of the Del Toro mime work. I say Giamatti, Angus Scrimm, the tall man from the Phantasm movies shows up. He's pretty much in all of his stuff though. But yeah, you get bits like you're in a police state. Our main character's in a police station. He gets a call from John, who they've just told is dead. It's like, and then he gets out of that, and it's like he gets a call. I can't talk in this line anymore. Go buy a hot dog, and he's talking to the hot dog. It's you get meat monsters, a lot of genitalia jokes, different dimensions. Almost even feels like they had to finally cut it short, and but it's a that's utterly insane. I would suggest a Henry Rollins movie. I did one of my early podcast episodes dedicated to his movies. He's in a lot of fun ones. I'm a Johnny Mnemonic guy. I mean, Keanu Reeves going on a rant about everything every selfish thing he wants. I want the $10,000 a night hooker. I want the club sandwich. I want room service. But Henry Rollins plays a spider, a doctor, and he's best known, of course, from being the front man of Black Flag and the Rollins band. Another great one of his is Feast, which was a movie that was on the Project Greenlight. So Wes Craven, Affleck, and Damon all worked on producing it, documented it for HBO. That's a crazy one. Alien invasion. And the sequels get wilder. But it immediately goes and posts stuff like trying to define the characters before we're gonna go and kill them all, like title cards essentially. Jason Mewes as himself. How did he survive this long? And then they introduce the kid. Surely we're not going to kill him right off the bat. That's what we get. And constantly having to change the title card of the hero because the first one comes in, immediately gets decapitated. It's and those guys ended up doing another movie I loved called The Collector, about a guy whose wife is desperate for money. They got to get it in 24 hours. They're going to kill her, and so he's going to rob a house that he's been working on. He's an ex-con, but unfortunately he's not there first. A guy who is trying to basically who wants to torture this family, and as the collector, because he always takes one person with him, has set up just booby traps all over the house. Like there's a room just full of bear traps and a tripwire. Don't use those scissors. Barbara Crampton is in that one. So if you've seen Reanimator, Stuart Gordon's From Beyond, Stuart Gordon's Space Trucker, You're Next is a movie I love, which turns out to be closer to horror Home Alone than anything else I've seen. About a family being taunted by masked assailants, a la The Strangers, and then everything's going well with their plan until we find out one of the girls brought to this family get-together was raised on an Australian survivalist camp. So tables will be turned, and as they say, very Home Alone-esque. But I don't know. I guess I go on about these violent features. How much violence are we actually looking when we're looking for a crazy movie, I suppose?
I guess it depends on the genre.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of violence in an action film. I'm not really interested in action films, but if it's a lot of violence in a horror movie, I really like violence in horror movies.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, and I'm doing a panel next weekend at the ATL Comic Convention, which will probably draw better just because it's a little more concise title. 1985 triple threat match, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, The Cannon Group. You want crazy movies, The Cannon Group. I don't think Runaway Train might be their most subdued, maybe The Last American Virgin, but these are the guys who gave you Masters of the Universe, 1987, the American Ninja franchise. Basically, Chuck Norris was their biggest star, Delta Force. They would also do stuff with Tobe Hooper, director of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist. And so he did movies like Life Force, which, again, absolutely insane feature about written by the writer of Alien, Dan O'Bannon, friend of John Carpenter, went to USC together. It's about space vampires hitching a ride on Halley's Comet, 1985. And I say space vampires, which was the original title of the story. Basically, they suck the life force out of you. There we go, title. So when they finally, the spacecraft that went up to Halley's Comet finally arrives, there's 3 naked corpses, and Matilda May is the actress, and she's pretty much just nude most of the movie, just wandering around, sucking the life out of people. You get a make-out, and then the only surviving astronaut from the mission is has to track her down before she destroys London. And somehow that involves a makeout scene with him and Patrick Stewart. Yeah, Life Force. It's from Tobe Hooper. He also did 2 other movies for Canon. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which was basically him just trying to take the piss out of his original movie. And Invaders from Mars, I believe. I have not seen Invaders from Mars, and I got to prep for that panel because I still haven't seen Invasion USA. I suppose I'll watch the Missing in Action movies, but, we got 1985, like the last great year of violence in cinema, in my opinion. Basically, you have Commando, which is just violence for violence sake. Nothing makes any logical sense in that movie. And then you got Rambo. Stallone wins the Cold War, goes back and saves everybody in Rambo First Blood Part 2, which totally destroys the message of the First Blood. And First Blood, brilliant film. Do I own it? No. Do I own the other 4 remaining Rambo movies? Yes, because those are absolutely insane. They're not focused on the drama. So I guess 90 minutes is the ideal time for escapism, I suppose, is what I'm, got to get back to reality at some point. But, that's why I haven't done too many romantic comedies or anything on my podcast. I'd say, at least in the 80s, I can't really say they were very romantic, despite they were themed that way. Like Valley Girl is a 1983 Nicolas Cage.
I've seen that one, yes.
Yes. It's more just it's Romeo and Juliet, but you don't really get to see them sneak around or anything like that. And then Risky Business, you think, there's the romance between Rebecca. No, you watch that movie. I don't want to speak ill of sex workers, but they're not paid to care. And which was really awkward because I was at a birthday party for a friend of mine, her 30th, and she said, the theme is 2000s rom-coms. And yeah, I think I may have seen 50 First Dates at a hotel, and I didn't say beginning to end, which was what a lot of people ended up dressing up as. I just came looking as 2000s as I could, and I guess we'll just call you Mark Ruffalo from 30 going on 30. 13 going on 30. So we got I haven't finished looking into him, but Professor is.
I will preface this: it's not a good movie.
Well,
I think I saw it primarily. I think we only had the Spanish version of it, so I didn't know what was going on the entire time.
Okay.
It was a ride for those reasons. It was a movie that we all kind of sat around and made fun of.
All right. Well, it's Michigan. Like I'm from Illinois. I've never seen us put any real signs talking about our pot tourism.
Yeah.
So I kind of appreciate that as I'm driving through northern Indiana to get here. But I mean, bad movies are going to have a renaissance because now 20 states you can easily access weed. And I'm hedging my bets. I got I'm on a provisional right now for medical professional wrestler. I don't even want to go into my concussion history. Let's say scores. Let's see, crazy movie I would suggest. I am digging what Jason Statham has been doing recently, The Beekeeper. And I also listen to a pretty popular podcast, How Did This Get Made, with Paul Scheer, June Diane Raphael, and Jason Mantzoukas. And they're big Statham fans. And then, I can appreciate the craziness of the Den of Thieves movies. Way too long. But when you get Gerard Butler just going nuts, and his bad movies, and he's got a few, are fun to watch still, just because his personality on his own. And I know we have I think we're finally going to get the Toxic Avenger remake with Peter Dinklage this year, finally. I'm sorry?
I said hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. And I would say, yeah, go back and watch a lot of Troma. I've only seen the first 2 Toxies, but Class of Nukem High. And it was a good time in the 80s just because that was the most, I think it was a pre-PG-13 time. So PG-13 established after Gremlins and Temple of Doom. So thank you, Steven Spielberg. First PG-13 movie to get a wide release, Red Dawn. But the point of PG-13 at the time was it's too scary for kids. So, I mean, you still got boobs for a couple more years in PG movies.
Yeah, we'll call it 80s PG.
Yes. But if it was violent, it was going to be an R, and you don't want your kids seeing violent anyhow. Now if going back to South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, it's okay for kids to see excessive, brutal violence as long as you don't say any naughty words.
That's right.
But nobody was making action movies for family audiences, and now after Batman, everything's PG-13. Violence-wise, I think kind of changed with Saving Private Ryan, but I think a lot of it that kind of got abused, and we never got back to just movies like Markel Lester. He's probably best known for directing the Firestarter with Drew Barrymore. He directed Commando, so he's a patron saint of my podcast. We are going to have a Mary Mark Lester Christmas this year, as we did last year. But one of his movies that got him the most attention was Class of 1984, which is dystopian. It's not dystopian. It's just like, this is how brutal schools have become. And like, nah, not in 84, but inner city school essentially being ran by Dick Van Patten's kid as just a complete psychopath who's got great talents, and the teacher trying to reach him, and it's just not going to work. Like the final vengeance scene in that is just worth it all. We're talking things that brutal means of killing that Steven Seagal movies were worthwhile because, like, Steven Seagal, awful actor, awful person from what I've gathered. But go back to, say, Under Siege. It was just fun seeing him do these things and putting people through. And then one of my favorite action movies is, Marked for Death. And I'm a big Keith David guy, so.
I actually got to run, but
yeah, nice meeting you as well. Thank you, Chris.
Nice to meet you.
I thought you were in the next panel, this room.
No,
okay, so we're at the 5-minute point. So,
I'm in room 1.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I mean, I guess that what it really comes down to, since this is probably the most time I've had more women than men in the audience. Sorry you abandoned her. What are you looking for in movies right now? Like, what really draws you? Because I know the big one this weekend is Superman. Last week was Jurassic World. Or are you just you just want something that's not loud and in your face, or at least with promotion-wise. Like, marketing, which is half the budget of a movie, which technically doesn't count as the budget, but, we call it Paramount math.
I definitely prefer movies that I don't need a lot of context, but not in the Marvel way where they explain everything for you at the beginning and then you get a sassy, that's so much explanation. Like, I prefer the original things because there's so many reboots and remakes coming out and it's all the same actors over and over again. I want so badly for there to be new things that are still intriguing, not the same 10A names. I want to meet new actors I've never heard of, but they're not necessarily just, oh, it's the biggest guy in Iceland, but he's in America now. It's like, well, cool, but he's still a huge budget guy. He's not new to everyone.
Well, most of those guys ended up going through Game of Thrones and are just that guys, honestly. Like, I love Liam Cunningham, Irish actor. Oh, they're a movie I keep trying to push, and Liam Cunningham's not in it. It's from Neil Marshall, director of Dog Soldiers and The Descent, the claustrophobic horror movie. Liam Cunningham is in Dog Soldiers. Doomsday from 2008. Scotland has a viral outbreak. People's faces are essentially melting off. So England's response, or Britain's response, let's just finish building that, make that wall the Romans built tall enough to keep the Scots out.
Topical.
And then 20 years later, the virus shows up in London.
Uh-oh.
And it's like, well, now we have to actually try curing this. And they've still had satellites going over Scotland, so they know there's the survivors. So they send Rona Mitra, who, if you can't get Kate Beckinsale to be your British action hero, you get Rona Mitra. If you like the Underworld series, with Kate Beckinsale, vampires versus werewolves. The third movie is a prequel, so you can't have Kate Beckinsale. But they have Rona Mitra, who looks damn near like Kate Beckinsale. Kate Beckinsale is a elite police officer who actually escaped Scotland last minute. Mom put her on a helicopter. She ended up taking a bullet to the eye, though. So she's got a robotic eyeball. They say, well, you want the answers. Let's send you over and find the cure. And they get to Glasgow. Seems pretty vacant until you get these cannibalistic punks. And we're talking punks like the old 80s, mohawks and everything. And eventually it's like these punks in Glasgow are at war with the top virologist, who is now taking a living in old Scottish castles, played by Malcolm McDowell, and is basically doing everything to say, no, there's nothing outside of Scotland. So it eventually becomes, you got medieval, you got punks, and you got super cops, and they only got 48 hours to get the cure, and never mind, and then it really gets political, because they just want the cure. They don't want to distribute it. They want to get rid of the poor first. So, a lot of fine actors in that. On top of it, Bob Hoskins. You get great dance scene to Good Thing by Fine Young Cannibals, and great soundtrack on top of that. Introduced me to Kasabian. So I'm seeing that we're about out of time, so I will thank you very much for showing up. I'll just get through the thank you. I will get through the formalities. I'd like to thank my Patreon subscribers. Tim Bates, he's been on episodes of the show about Night of the Demons, 1988 horror comedy from Kevin S. Tenney, and Arena, basically blood, sport, and space, from 1989. Former ring announce backstage interviewer for AA Wrestling in Chicago. That's The Scoop Staley. I know the guy personally. Very nice. And I'd like to thank Stacia Marie Harden. She was my best friend. She's still keeping an eye on me. I hope she's doing that for everybody else she touched in her life. Keep me out of bad kind of trouble. And I hope she's squeezing the ectoplasm out of the fluffiest of kitties, Skimbleshanks, the one-eared angel. If you want to be on the podcast, send an email to russthebus07@gmail.com. That's RUSSTHEBUS07@gmail.com. Offer me a movie, a theme, a director, an actor. As long as it's bonkers, I will talk about it. If you want to talk something, sweet and romantic, keep it under 100 minutes. So thank you for coming to my panel. Have yourselves a great show.
Can I hear a wahoo?